Hey, hey, hey guys, it's Jill Cherry with Cherry Picked Webco, and I'm super excited because one of my personal challenges this year was to do more video and teaching, which is super uncomfortable for me. And so I thought it might be a great way to break into doing it with a friend. So here I have with me Drasco. He runs Peacefully Ambitious CEO, formerly known as Uplevel Mind. It's a podcast and coaching program for business owners with small teams that are trying to scale past 1 million a year. He coaches his clients to eliminate the mental, emotional, and leadership root causes, the causes of their overwork and their underdelegation patterns, resulting in his clients gaining back at least 10 hours a week and recapturing at least 30% profit loss due to these stressful patterns. And I don't know about you, but every small business owner on the planet could stand to listen to this webinar. So, Drasco, why don't you tell everybody that's on tonight and those who plan to watch in the future who you are and what you're going to walk us through tonight?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, thank you very much. Yeah, so I'm excited to dive into this because just a bit of context on like me. So I owned a brick and mortar weight loss center for 10 years, right? So I had 4 staff in there. We had hundreds of clients. Everything about that business was essentially something that was great on paper, yet literally 10 years to the month that I opened it, I ended up closing the doors down because it just imploded on me because I actually wasn't aware of a lot of these mental, emotional leadership patterns that were happening within me that just made me do like bad decision after bad decision after bad decision, right? And that's kind of what opened up this door into learning about myself. What is it that I did so wrong? What is it in me that kind of drove these decisions? And ultimately healing and eliminating those patterns, which is what I do now with my own clients. Fortunately, so they don't have to go through the same road that I did, but I can actually save them in terms of helping them regain time and money that they're essentially losing out on right now, but oftentimes don't know it. And that's kind of the premise. Like when you came to me, like, what could we do as far as like a workshop for your people? Because it's the time now of like New Year's resolutions. That's why I wanted to go into today to look at more like, okay, how can we create peaceful profits? Okay. And this is really, when you think about, okay, well, peaceful profits, it's basically 2 main things we want within our business. We want money that we can actually spend. And 2, we want to not have the stress of like having to earn it, and subsequently time is also included in that. Like if you combine those 2 reasons, it's generally the main reasons that all of us became entrepreneurs in the first place, right? So that's the whole premise of what we're going to dive into today, is like how to hit your 2024 business goals by making more money but doing it with less stress, and kind of embodying this idea of the peaceful profits. And I think the thing that I just want to start with contextually around that is like the general focus of any business owner is like, okay, so I want a bigger business this year. That means I got to make more sales. So this is true. Like I'm not going to sit here and deny the truth of that, but it's kind of like, is it the most useful or most effective path forward? Okay, if you think about it, like more sales doesn't always equal more profit or less stress. There's a lot of factors that go into, are you actually going to have more profit and less stress making that profit? Okay. So basically, what you want to understand before we dive into all of the assessments and I explain those is like the distinction between like what are profit leaks, what are profit bottlenecks, and what's profit generation. Okay. Profit generators, that's the simplest thing. It's just more sales, right? Like it's generally where it goes. When we think about those things, that's the first place we focus on. It's the first thing we want to do. But the problem doesn't lie in just having more sales. It's actually in the 2/3 of the things that I mentioned. So the profit bottlenecks and the profit leaks. So profit bottlenecks is going to be things like wrong margins, right? So if we don't have the appropriate margins for where we want to go in business, technically every single sale is actually a bottleneck towards getting us closer to the goal that we have. Okay. Basically, this is how you get into feast and famine patterns. This is how you get into ceilings. This is how you get into like, why am I working so hard and yet there's nothing to show for it, right? There are factors within your margins that are going to be a bottleneck to that. So now we take a look at, okay, well, what's actually behind that? And this is where we look at this idea of the profit leaks. So with the margin example, a potential profit leak could be like if I have hesitation in looking at my numbers and actually addressing like, okay, why are my numbers there? Why are my margins there? Why do I hesitate to charge more? Why do I hesitate to ask for bigger sales? Why do I say yes to unreasonable clients? All of these yeses that you're saying out loud to the things that internally you know are actually no's, these are actually the profit leaks. They're going to create the bottlenecks that are going to keep the profit generators from actually getting you to where you want to go. And the irony of all of this is like profit generating activities are the most energy like costly activities. Like it takes a lot to market. It takes a lot to filter through all the crappy leads. It takes a lot to do sales calls. It takes a lot to then fulfill. And I'm not, again, denying the need for all of those activities, but it's just like if we have limited time and energy, then we got to look to spend it efficiently. And especially with regards to like the clients that I work at that are transitioning from this game of kind of being a good solopreneur to like maybe having one or two assistants to like growing a team to move into like past six figures into seven figures, like your identity has to shift from being just like somebody who hustles to get clients and make a business into being a business owner. Okay.
What would
And
you
that
say?
means, yeah, go ahead.
What would you say to somebody who, like myself, I love the process of sales. I mainly because to me, and I know a lot of my audience, I feel like is the same way. We just love our people. We love educating them. To me, it's not just a sale, it's a relationship I'm starting with a person. And so when I try to shift my mindset from, you know, the hustle and making the sale into, okay, well, if I want to grow to that million a year, I'd have to give that up. Is there a way to not give that up and still make that mindset shift? Like, can you hire a team to delegate other things to while still keeping the sales a responsibility? Do you understand my question?
Yeah. It's like you care about your people. So you want to make sure that you are
Like
like,
I don't, yeah, like it's hard for me to want to hire a salesperson because I don't know how that salesperson is going to treat the client from basically step one all the way through their relationship with Cherry Picked, because I know for a fact they wouldn't treat them how I do. And so that's just a mental block for me. And maybe later on in this call we can get into that. But I guess speak to the two different people types would be cool. And
yeah,
Dr. Kathy's on the call and she was awarded, we get to walk through this with her personally, which is really cool. And then I think if you want to walk through it with me, it'd be super helpful. So then people watching this back at the replay can walk themselves through this amazing spreadsheet that you put together. With it's an assessment that you can put yourself through. And we'll share that in a little bit. I believe I did make you the host, so you can share your screen whenever you're ready. But yeah, I guess if you want to shed some light into that moving forward into the assessments, that would be great for me personally.
yeah, 110%. And it's a good question. And so here's kind of how we contextually answer that. Because a lot of what you're basically asking about is like, well, clarity and defining my role as the business grows, right? Which has components of what I'm talking about as far as like these profit leaks. Because if you put yourself in the wrong role, like you said, well, I'm supposed to hire salespeople, but then that's like destroying my business. And the reason that I actually did that was because I didn't trust myself. Like I trusted like an external source. Okay, that is a potential profit leak from the perspective of your own leadership because it's got all these ripple effects that are actually costing you, and probably hidden ones too, of like where else do you not share your truth, right? Like where else do you hold back from speaking, right? Where else do you hold back from actually trusting your own gut versus doing what you should, right? And we'll get into the behaviors that tend to like drive this. But what you're basically asking about is like more of a clarity question of like, okay, well, when I know my role, then I can build around that. When I know the lifestyle that I want, I can build around that. And a lot of the times when I help entrepreneurs like overcome the overwork and decrease how much time they work by eliminating these things, a lot of it is like how much of you is operating on these shoulds. Like the business should be built to support the lifestyle that you want, not the other way around. Like you shouldn't have to morph your lifestyle so that you do all the things you need to do to like make this whole thing. Like that was one of the reasons why I imploded my business, because was actually, I didn't realize at the time, it was more important for me to prove that I could make a successful gym versus actually just start to think about what is it that I actually want. And that led me down a path of making many rash and kind of more aggressive decisions that I needed to be made. So does that give you like
Yeah,
context and an answer to
100%.
that?
So I think if I understand what you're saying, this is more going to be for information, but then also like the business owner themselves has to, I guess, dig inside and answer their questions truthfully, so that they can get the best outcomes of like, stopping the profit leaks. Like for me, if I love the process of creating the relationship and bringing them into Cherry Picked and making sure they're taken care of and kind of overseeing, and that makes the business thrive. Like it makes total sense to me. So cool. I'm excited to dive into your assessment. I know we've had a few meetings prior to this one, and I was like, I can't wait because hopefully, selfishly he can walk through it with me. So I'm ready.
110%. Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I'll just contextualize it since you're building up the suspense with regards to it. So yeah, I always love to say like, and this is probably coming from the fitness part, like I always like to test, not guess. So when it comes to these things, like it's easy to be like, oh, like I think I have some like imposter syndrome, so I'm not as visible. Like you mentioned, like doing video and stuff like before. Like that's probably an issue, but like is it an issue? So like we want to test, not guess. And then to what degree is it actually an issue? So this whole profit and time leak audit that you guys are going to be going through, and like I said, we'll put all the links in there for the replay. This is there to basically do a few different things. Number one, it's to assess which behaviors are right now creating all of the stressful patterns inside of your business. Okay. So the more stressful patterns you have, obviously that's going to create these indirect leaks as far as profits and time. So we're going to assess the behaviors that drive that. We're going to assess the mental and emotional root causes of that. Okay. And we're going to make it real by saying, like, okay, how can I attach a number to this? What does this actually mean in terms of what do I stand to recapture if I solve these things? Right. And that's kind of where we're getting at is if you could change nothing about your business, but actually make more profit this year, you're not going to do it by some magical like tactic. You're going to do it by assessing these things and looking at places you don't want to look at and recapturing that time and money. So contextually, that's that. And then as far as okay, any questions, I guess, before we dive into the actual assessment?
I'm good.
You're
Same.
good. Okay,
Yep.
perfect. So did you put the link to the assessments in the chat?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. So let me bring it up on my screen. And then all right. So I know there's a lot of stuff like on here. And like I said, if you're on desktop, it's going to be way easier so than on your phone. So basically like all standard things, just when you get the link, make sure, file, make a copy, add your name to it, so you can actually use it. So what you want to do here is like, we'll just do it step by step. You don't have to worry about clicking around because I know as entrepreneurs, we always like to like, okay, let me figure it out myself. So don't worry about that for now. All I really want you guys to do is go to step number one. Okay, you're going to click this link and it's going to take you to 3 assessments. Okay, so these are the assessments that are going to basically look at the behaviors we tend to do. And once you get those behaviors, basically you'll do each assessment. You'll just click through all these. I'll just do this.
Can we actually do this like for me? Like,
Okay, you want to do it
or
live? I was just going to put a
yep.
timer for you to do it because the questions themselves are less relevant than the results.
Okay.
So I'm going to put a timer for 5 minutes to give you the time to like do this, and then we'll kind of reconvene from there. But the only point that I wanted to point out was when you do these assessments, you're going to do 3 of them. Like you saw, they're relatively quick. We can do this in 5 minutes, but you're going to get a point score and a color. Okay. And what you're going to do is you're going to go back to the assessment. So that was the OUTwork assessment. So you're going to select the color. Okay. And in this instance, the points that I got randomly was 20, and you're going to fill that out for all 3 of these. Okay. So when that happens, then I'll explain to you what the next step is. So for now, okay, we'll just start this. And then give you 5 minutes. If you finish before that, no problem. Just let me know and we'll take it from there.
Dr. Kathy, can you do this?
I don't think so. I don't see the link.
It's in the chat box.
Okay. I'm not very good at Zoom calls, so where would I find that?
No problem at all. On the bottom of your screen, probably
Okay.
the fourth one over from the left, you'll see chat. Click on that.
And if you can't log in on a computer, like it'll be way easier for you to actually do the assessment. If you can't,
Yeah. I might run and get my iPad real quick. And try it that way.
Okay, no problem. I'll do my assessments.
But if I can't, I'll do it later. So, okay. I'll be back in 1 second.
Okay.
so I don't know if you have Jeopardy music on, but this might be a good time
Yeah,
for
let's like Google.
it.
Oh no. I wonder if I just do such a, what's it called? Newbie at this.
Or are you actually looking for
Yes.
oh, okay. I'll look for it if you want me to. You do the assessment. I can actually figure it out. Probably YouTube has something.
Here we go. Can you hear that?
Yeah, yeah, I can actually. Well, I heard something, but oh,
Try the A&W spicy dill pickle.
so are you able to hear that?
I hear. Hold on.
It's probably I would have to share my
I don't hear yours, but I hear mine. Do you hear mine?
no.
Oh, darn. It's okay. Hopefully the awkward silence.
Well, for people watching it live or record, I could just speed through this. So
Yeah, it's true.
okay.
Okay.
All right, I'll test that or I'll turn that off. I think there's also like we got to do system sounds need to be on, but I can't remember where that thing is. But anyway, I'll let you do your assessment.
Okay. What's your we're gonna interfere with your connection to your partner?
So my Wi-Fi is cutting in and out. So I'm going to let you do the assessment and then I'll do it later. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. I'm just working through the first
Sorry
one.
about that.
No, you're good.
That's okay. All good.
Okay, my first score, Drasco, if you want to type it in, is a yellow with 20 points.
Oh, ironically, okay, so that was for the outwork. That's
That's
literally what I
funny.
clicked
Yeah,
around randomly. Okay.
that's so funny.
Okay, so yeah, then take your time, right? I put 5 minutes on here because I figured it'd be more people, but yeah, then you take your time. You let me know when you're actually done.
Okay. Okay, when it comes to using mental personal development tools like affirmations, meditations, visualizations, yeah, I don't use those. So, um, when it comes to making decisions, which one most reflects your standard experience? Um, Okay, the next one I got yellow and my score is 16 points.
Perfect. So you got one more.
Yeah. Sorry guys, a little slow. These questions are, I'm thinking.
It's all good. Okay. It's
Luckily it's not
not like the spotlight's not on you now. So, you know.
Yeah, I know it's like one of those like sorry guys for taking so long. Okay. Okay. Okay, last question.
Okay. All good.
Okay. And the last one is green with 8 points.
All right. Perfect. Okay. Awesome. So, this is how you want to then move on to the second step after you do the assessment. So I guess even before we go to like, okay, what's your final out pattern? One of the things I just want to draw attention to, and when you read the whole thing, like it'll actually walk you through what all of these means, but I'll explain it live. So when it comes to like how we progress within our businesses, how do we solve business problems? How do we move forward through challenges that come up? When I looked at all of the clients that I've worked with, for those who want to check it out, like I have over 200 recorded coaching calls with other entrepreneurs as well, like breaking down all of those. There's generally three kind of behavior patterns, so combinations of behaviors that we tend to do when problems arise or when to move forwards. Okay. And I call these out patterns. So we either tend to outwork all of our problems, we tend to outthink them, or we tend to outlearn them. So outwork, basically your tendency to outwork through doubt, through challenges. Pretty self-explanatory. Outthink is basically our tendency to use our heads to move through challenges. So this might, and I know you mentioned like the whole meditation thing, etc. So the reason that that's in there is oftentimes many of us will be very good at using our heads to kind of navigate or work through emotions that hold us back, while also using our heads to deliberate, okay, what's the right decision? Do I have the right information? Strategically, what is it that I do? So that's the tendency, the combination of a lot of different things to move and emphasize that pattern of behaviors to move through challenges. And in OUTlearn is the degree to which, okay, so when something like comes up, how do I gather information? What do I learn? What course do I take? And to what degree do you just implement those things to move through to next level? So all of us use a combination of all three. At the end of the day, we dominate with one. And this isn't an assessment to look at, okay, well, why is this wrong? It's actually celebrated. This is probably what got you here. But if it's causing you problems right now, okay, especially if you're scoring red or yellow in any of the categories, it's like, this has worked before, but for where I want to go to the next level, it's likely hindering me in some way. And that's the part we can dive into and look at the specifics of how. And or it's not enough to move me into the leadership that I want to move the business to the next level. Okay. So just before I go on and we look through your assessments, any questions about that kind of basic explanation?
Nope.
Nope.
Okay. Perfect. So in your instance, because you got 2 yellows, okay, so all you do for step 2 is you're going to scroll through until you find the matching colors. So for you, right, it'd be like yellow, yellow, green. Okay. So in this instance, because you got 2 yellows, like, okay, well, which one do I pick? So 20 is the one that's more dominant for you. Okay. So in your instance, this is where you would click to find a breakdown of what that actually means for you. So you can definitely, I mean, obviously you can read through this. We're going to go through it together. But for anybody else that's here, you might have combinations that are, say, let's just say like some ones like this, where you don't have 2 of the same color, you got all 3 of them. So if you're in that category, all you're going to do is, like, when you find your combination, you're going to look to the side, and basically this column here, step 3, will tell you, okay, this is my core out pattern. Okay. So your core out pattern is the one you dominate with whenever you try to push through any of these business issues, right? So we talk about those profit generators. Generally, you're going to dominate in terms of behavior to generate pattern using one of these. So for you, I most likely just work through all of my problems. So does that resonate for you in terms of
I
how
was
you
literally, yeah, 100%. I was literally just about to say, like, I might have problems, but I'll just go outwork them all. And I just want to reiterate, guys, that Drasco, if you could just tell them. So for me, I have yellow, yellow, green, and I just follow it all the way across, and it will give me the details of what cell to click on next. But if there's no text, then I'm going to click directly in the cell you have highlighted now to find
correct?
out. Okay.
Yeah, and that's what you can read here on number 3. So click the color that aligns with your combo below or on the left. That's your core out pattern, right?
Okay.
So in your instance, because you were yellow, yellow, green,
Mm.
right? So basically click the highest yellow score. So for you, that was the OUTwork 20.
Yeah.
Okay, but if somebody got, like I said, yellow, red, green, then you just follow that to the right, and then this gives you your core out pattern. Okay.
Perfect. Okay.
And in general, it's like, for anybody that scored red on this, so as you know, expected, red, yellow, green, like if it's in the red, like this is a problem, right? Like you are overdoing it, you have an over dependency and are basically using the wrong tool for the job. So this worked to get you where you are right now, but where your business is going, the desires you have, the things you've built are now calling for a different level of leadership. They're calling for you to show up in a different way, to upgrade your identity. And that's what we're going to discover in phase 2. Okay. If you're in the yellow, like yourself, the way you want to think about this is like getting blood work done, where you have the indicator that's like close to the margin, right? Like this isn't like that big of a deal yet. Like we don't have to take direct interventions, but it's a yield sign. Okay. And for people that get yellow, what I would look at historic is like, okay, have we been trending towards the red, or like, is this the first time that this is happening? And like, okay, we're just kind of here. So it's just something to keep in mind, right? So again, if I was working with you one-on-one, we would dive deeper into that, and we can towards the end. I just want to get through the whole thing, but that's the kind of things you want to be looking at when you go and interpret what the score actually means. So any questions, comments, or concerns about that?
No, that's great. But to answer your original question, yes, I 100% identify with outwork. So
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm glad this is accurate in that case. I'm not just making stuff up. So right on. Okay, perfect. So this now gives us an idea of like, okay, what behavior is driving like the ceiling or the profit leaks or the stress that we're experiencing. Now we're going to look at, okay, well, what is the root cause of this, and actually put a tangible number to it. So to look at this, we're now going to look at the patterns of thoughts and the patterns of emotions that basically tend to power the behavior we just identified. So in your instance, okay, so what are the core thought and emotion patterns that power your overwork, that power that tendency to, I'm just going to bust through any issues and I'm going to outwork them, okay? Because at this point, that's kind of like, it's not really working for you to the degree that you want it, okay? And there's basically 7 core categories of these patterns that I call leadership limits. So if we have mental and emotional patterns that don't serve us, they're a limit to our leadership. That's what we were talking about before. This is a cap towards where your business needs you to be to get to the next level. Okay. So these 7 categories, right? The problematic habits, so things like, avoidance, procrastination, perfectionism, interpersonal and control. So this is going to be very relevant if you have a team. And then visibility, fear, self-talk, and stress. And how you want to look at this is really just a simple tally, go across, and what you know about yourself, consider how do these things impact your stress. So if I'm somebody who is a perfectionist, like, does that stress me out to the degree that like I think about it all the time when I'm at night? Do I think that I do this right? How many times do I have to like rewrite things? How much mental real estate does it occupy in my head? So you want to just kind of look at beyond just, oh yeah, that's probably me. So to what degree does it impact my stress? If it does, you would check it off in this column, and then take a look at, okay, well, how does that impact my productivity? If I have to rewrite a simple email 10 times, that's time that I'm not utilizing towards something else. So I would say that's something that also impacts my productivity. And if you don't have a team, you will only stick to these 2 columns. If you do have a team, you'll also then look at if like I can't let anything go without looking at it. I don't trust my team. That's something that also impacts your ability to delegate properly, right? They're not going to have the autonomy. They're not going to have the trust to do what they need to do to deliver. So that's how you want to think about these as you go and identify them. Okay. So this one's a lot simpler. You just kind of go down the list, you check off which ones you already are familiar with in the category that you're familiar with. And then we'll just stop it right there, and I'll explain the rest of it before we go into like the calculations and the profit leaks, etc.
Okay, so
And this one might be easier for you to do and then share your screen, or you want to just tell me which ones to check off. Like, I don't know how you want to do
yeah,
this one.
let me I can share my screen
Sure.
and then you could just walk us through. And hi, Dr. Maggie, I see you. Okay. So overworking impacts my stress, but also underworking does, because I feel like if I'm not working enough, then people are gonna like, it's really crazy, but I'm like, okay, they're gonna hate me and they're gonna go find somebody else. So that's that. And then distraction, can't focus, that obviously affects my productivity, because I feel like I have so much on my plate sometimes where it's like I don't know what to focus on first. Okay. If you don't have any, if you don't resonate with it, do you check
Yeah,
anything?
then you just check nothing. Like this is literally you're just self-selecting the ones you already are aware of.
Okay. Not doing what you um hmm. Okay. So you said just focus on the first one for now?
Nope. So just go through all of them at this point. You just read through them, check off the ones that are relevant to you, discard the ones that are not.
I'm getting better with this one, so
Okay. The good thing, there's no right or wrong answer here. So, there's not going to be a report card at the end of this. So
okay, great.
you're all good.
And I just want to check in with Dr. Kathy and then also Dr. Maggie, if you feel to unmute, but you don't have to. Is this all making sense? It's good information. Everything is good
Yeah,
here.
I would say so.
Okay, perfect. I do want to be liked, but I don't know if it stresses me out, because also I don't care. I don't care. mm. For trouble getting A+ talent, I have a really solid team, but if I wanted to grow them, I don't feel as though I would find people like the 3 that I have. Do I
Mhm.
click these or?
So again, like you could say that that is a limiting belief, right? Now, to the degree that it impacts you right now from your vantage point, like that's up to you, right? This is why you kind of self-select. So is that a stressful thing for where you want to go? Maybe. Doesn't really sound like it, but it's kind of your call and stuff like that.
Um, wow, we're getting personal here on the Zoom for all the people to see, but it's okay.
I know, I was just gonna say, I'm like, I want to commend you for being the one to lead from the front with this, because I know it's always funner on this end of the spectrum than it is on that side sitting doing this. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely I commend you for the vulnerability to do it in this way.
Um, overwhelm and anxiousness. That doesn't resonate really. Right.
Perfect. Okay, so if you're done, then we'll get into the other ones afterwards. But if you need to take a breath, you know what I mean? Like, okay, like this part's done, so
Okay.
that part's all good.
So
Um,
do I stop
how do
sharing
you
my
feel?
screen and you share again?
Uh, yeah, I mean, yeah, you can bring it back to me. That's totally fine. So firstly, like, how do you feel going through that process?
Good. Except obviously, like, you never want to admit to people that you feel like you don't know what you're doing. I know that I know what I'm doing. Like, I have the technical knowledge and skill. But it's like, my clients are gonna be watching this, be like, oh, she has imposter syndrome. I'm just hoping that is like, as the more authentic I can show up as myself, like it's giving them permission to do that. So yeah, it's vulnerable, but I mean, like, I'll survive. I'm excited. I want to be honest too, because I want my real numbers. Because if it's something that I can fix, then and it helps, then cool.
110%. And that's why I said, like, I commend you for leading from the front in this way. Because, like, no matter how much of an expert you are, there's always going to be that seeping doubt, right? So, the way you want to look at that, actually, no, share your screen again, because I'll actually just access or use all of your stuff again, since it is filled out, because it'll spit out, basically in a breakdown of it. So for those of you doing it again on your own, you see at the bottom here, it says, okay, it's in the red zone. I'm going to click here to read more, like right underneath the numbers. So if you click on that, okay, it'll take you to like a video description of what this really means. So I'll give you the kind of quick breakdown of how you want to interpret the results that you just had. So what this measures, like this leadership limit bit, what it measures, without going into the calculation bit, is basically the impact of all of these inner mental and emotional patterns on the behavior that drives all of your stress. Okay. So in this instance, if it's red, it's like that's the driving force behind it. So to really make this real, as far as like, okay, well, tangibly, what does this actually mean inside of my business? That's really what this whole assessment kind of is about. Okay. So at the bottom part of this, so you can input if these numbers are different for you, but if you estimate, like, generally per week, how much time do you think you spend dealing with the cumulative effect of all of this? You would input that there. And then in general, like, how much is your general hour that you'd be like if you just took on client work on an hourly basis, like I wouldn't work less than like this amount. You know what I mean? So that's why like the 60 and the 100 is kind of in there as like a baseline, just because of the people that I work with, is kind of like the low end of what we could be expected here. And the reason this is important, because it starts to make the impact of this real. Okay. I know the number at the bottom is like a massive number. Like, okay, there's no way I'm losing $2 million per year, like on all of these things. But the way you want to look at that number is this is not a line on your P&L statement. It's not something that's going to show up as a transaction on, your bank statement. This is an indirect measure. When you look cumulatively at everything that's on that sheet, okay, you get to have a number associated with it that represents something. So if you just looked at the time that you spend wasting with this in terms of like the ripple effects, how often am I not present with my family because I'm thinking about all the stresses of whatever, let's just say feast and famine cycles, or where's the money coming from? If, like you mentioned, like I need to be liked, right? Like if stuff like that is constantly coming up, how much time do I spend basically over delivering for like client results beyond the scope of something they're already done? There's a lot of wastage that happens there in terms of both team and how much you actually do, right? Missed opportunities. Like if so much of your time is spent compensating for all of these patterns, how much missed opportunities do you actually have to grow the business, right? If it's taking up a lot of mental real estate, that's not being allocated towards higher leverage, either hires, higher leverage tasks, and just making bigger and better deals in business, right? So before I go on, questions, comments, or concerns about that piece?
No, but that seems like a lot, but it makes sense, like everything you're saying.
Yeah. So what's your initial reaction to like, yeah, it's such a massive number. I wasn't expecting that much. This seems ridiculous. Like what's the initial reaction for you?
All of the above of everything you just said, but then also on the flip side is, I was about to say, can we curse? But it's my Zoom, so I'm gonna curse. Like, well, damn, like if that's, the leaky bucket, then I'll be able to afford a home on the Jersey Shore in no time. Like, because,
Yeah.
this is very eye-opening. So,
Yeah. And that's exactly what the assessment is designed to do. Like I said, this is not a real number like you're going to see it on your P&L statements, your bank statements, etc. Right? It's inaccurate to say like this is what you stand to lose. This is the cumulative figure on like when we ignore the leaks, when we ignore what we as leaders bring to the business by not addressing us as leaders, like not addressing the human side of the actual business, this is really the potential that's staring at us in our face, right? Like if you scroll up to your stuff, right? Like if you look at the numbers of the cumulative bits, right? Like 22 in the stress column, 14 and 14 in the productivity and delegation column, right? So it's like cumulatively speaking, there's like 50 separate patterns that you are already aware of that affect you in the area of your stress, your productivity, and your delegation, right? Cumulatively, it's kind of like if you eliminated these and operated without these friction points, which basically means operating at your most effective, right? Does that not mean that's worth $2 million to you
yeah,
if you
100%.
could pour all of yourself into the work that you're doing?
Mhm.
Right? Like that's really like the number at the bottom, like both represents the leaks that are available to you, but more importantly, it represents what do you stand to recapture if you show up as your fullest self. So
Right.
what lands for you with that?
Like what I could get rid of almost immediately is what you're asking? Like these checks?
No, just like from like this is more about like it's also about the potential, it's about the leaks. Like I guess any questions, comments, or concerns about that piece.
Yeah, no, it all makes sense. And then like some of these are, oh, I wouldn't say obviously because sometimes it might not be. And also this is working me through. So like people watching might be, well, I know Jill and that's not how I think that she struggles, but I'm being very real and honest here. So I guess it's all mental of like knowing that this business, was like I am capable, just having like more of a, like I am supposed to be doing this and I'm really good at it and my team loves me, and like not letting that even be a factor in any of my decision making process. So this is really cool. I hope people like actually like work through this and like get what, like it's so cool. So, and
Thank you.
Dr. Harris, I know that you hopped on. You probably can't see the Google Doc that I had sent in the chat, but we will get that to you after this call. It is also being recorded too. So
Yeah, so exactly. So you'll be able to walk through these whole pieces. So I'm happy to dive into like this deeper with you because you're the one doing it. The last part I just want to point out. So for those of you that aren't here live, like I said, we were gonna have like hot seat coaching, etc. So those of you that obviously aren't here to do that, the last part of this is basically it gives you a general blueprint on what you need to address in order to eliminate all of these leaks. So in the last part here, all you have to do is, so for number one, that was your core out pattern. So remember that was like the behavior for you was outwork and it was in the yellow. Okay. And then the leadership limits, that one's automatically generated for you from the previous sheets. It's already in the red. So all you have to do now is find yellow and red.
already in
And then,
the red. Okay.
yeah. And then you go to the right, and then this is the blueprint for your particular pattern. Okay. So in your instance, this is what I always call like people with this pattern, like you're mowing the lawn while the house is on fire. So generally what that translates to is like, there are things that like need your attention, but generally you're just trying to outwork problems. And like, that's probably a part of the avoidance pattern. Like, okay, no, we just need to do this. Like, don't worry about like the other parts. Right. So does that resonate with you with regards to like, okay, if you're looking at what's
But
happening?
um it's hysterical. I'm gonna be honest, I don't know if it resonates with me, but I feel like if I were to like dive deeper into it, then it would like be like a light bulb. And part of me thinks that when I was going back through the assessment of like the overworking, like I will outwork any problem, the overwork comes with like neglecting my boys. So like, you know what I mean? So I could like definitely see this because I'm not gonna lie, my business is great. I'm, you know, I feel normally stressed as any like person would be running a company, but I can see where I need balance and like going back through the assessment here with like the profit and time leaks of I answered a question about um basically being all present with where I'm at. Oh no, that was the very first assessment we did back here.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and it asks you a question about, when you're with your family, are you with them or you like kind of with them? And I answered honestly, and I'm like, I'm kind of with them because sometimes if there's something more pressing, then, they wait. And my boys are very gracious and give me so much grace. And I love them for that. And they never make me feel bad about it. But as a mom and a wife, obviously, like I read this and I'm like, you know what? That's not wrong. Like I could be better. So
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that and being so candid with it, because this comes up all the time. And it actually relates back to, so initially when you asked me when we started, you were like, well, like the whole sales thing, I don't want to like outsource my sales. I care about my clients, etc. So, and I was like, okay, well, that's basically a clarity thing. Like it's clarity on identity that you want to have for the business that you want to have going forward. So what I'm hearing when you're describing this is like, there's part of your values that are like, I really want to be this way for my family. Whatever present means to you, whether it's presence of time, presence of mind, presence of, space or experience, like whatever that means to you, like that's clearly a value. But there's other things operating in there that like, I have to over deliver. If I don't, I think I always wrote down is like, if I don't do this, they're going to hate me. They're going to go somewhere else. Okay. Those are very fear-based beliefs that right now supersede this value of how present I want to be. So our natural tendency, our default is like, well, I'm just going to like circle here because that seems more present. Like the urge of fear is always going to be like louder than the call of our values.
you're a
So
genius.
in your instance, this is where it's like mowing the lawn with the house on fire. It's like, what I really want is this and to create balance around this. But as soon as I try to do that, I get these fearful things. So I just continue to overwork.
You're like hitting the nail on the head. It's crazy. It's kind of like, those things that you like find on Facebook randomly, or it's like, take this test and find out what Monopoly board game you're at or whatever. And you like do it and you're like, why is this so weirdly accurate? I feel like this is happening, but on like so much more of like a realistic level. Like it's so crazy because you're right. It is a fear thing. And I guess to me, I'm not a fearful person. Like I'm faith-based, like I have a relationship with God. I am a Christian. I believe that he has my life written out for me. But I guess when you put it in the terms of what you're putting it, it's like I guess subconsciously I do have this fear around, well, if I do actually take my evenings off and not work, like it'll be okay, because in the back of my mind, I'm like, well, what needs to get done that's not getting done that like someone's, gonna say this about or whatever. So it makes so
Correct.
much sense.
Beautiful. I love that. And it's just like even
Yeah.
the things that you shared right now, like you ended that off with kind of like an offshoot of, well, who like I can't remember verbatim what you said, but it was like, what are people going to think, or like who's going to kind of be impacted if I don't do this? So it's like the should that's operating within your inner critic is basically about what other people will think, what my perception is, right? That is always going to be a fear-based thing that's going to drive that outwork behavior, that's going to drive the stress, that's going to drive these leaks. And you're actually like, this whole discussion is a good example of like, okay, so you saw that number and it was like 2 million. You're like, okay, whatever, like 2 million, it just sounds ridiculous. But it's kind of like how much is your family worth? Like that also sounds like a ridiculous question.
Like,
Because like,
but
why would I give?
they're priceless. Like you can't put a price on it.
Exactly, right. And now when you look at such a big number in an assessment like this, it's like, well, part of what goes into the number is the specific representation of you as an entrepreneur and what's important to you. It's like, if family is important to you, then the reason it's so big, it's like, well, there's a values conflict with regards to how you're showing up. That is a profit and time leak that, again, it's not going to show up on your P&L statement, but it is a very real part of how you operate your life and your business, right? So like, that's what we would use as a baseline, because this is an assessment I do with all clients that start to work with me. Like this is what we use as a baseline, and then that's what we compare to as they move through the program. Like where are they improving? What things are they knocking off? How is this getting better? Okay, so does that kind of make sense, or give additional clarity to that whole piece?
No, I love this. This is so enlightening. I love it. Um, I No, I love it. I can't wait to actually go back through. I have all the links open and watch all my videos. Um,
Correct.
so yeah, I'm excited. Okay, I'm gonna ask these ladies to unmute. I want to open it up for questions.
Yeah, and I think you can stop sharing the screen now if unless there's something specific they want to reference. But yeah.
Okay. I believe. Okay, both are unmuted. So first of all, I want just thoughts, any questions, concerns. We have, 30 minutes of open discussion, really. Actually, Drasco was like, I like smaller groups because it's more intimate. We can really dive deep. And then those that watch the playback, they get very intrigued by it all. So, ladies, just open up with any questions you have based on what has been discussed. Hopefully me being vulnerable has helped you understand the process and how it can be super enlightening to be your best version as a business owner and honestly as like a human being, because we identify a lot in the entrepreneurial world as like, well, I'm a business owner, and it's like, yes, you are, but you're so many other things too. You're a mom, sister, wife, the list goes on. So hopefully this was enlightening, but I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say about it.
I mean, I think it's going to be kind of, I'm very excited to take the quiz when I can get my Wi-Fi working better. But I think I think it'll be very eye-opening, like you said. So I'm anxious to do that.
Yeah, I'm excited. And then you guys are going to have to share your scores with me if you want to. You don't have to, of course, but I'm just so intrigued because, everyone has like it's kind of like, I think of the iceberg picture where it's like what people see and then what people don't see. And it's like you portray yourself to the world a certain way, but then it's like when you really dive into it, it's like, wow, like what you're going through is relatable, or I had no idea, like how can I help you kind of thing. So
yeah, I agree. I hopped on a little late, so I missed the beginning. I apologize. But like you said, props to you for diving in. And I think that's needed sometimes. So I'm excited about that too.
Yeah.
especially starting new and everything. I think it will be helpful just to have it's almost like a different perspective from a different point of view.
Yeah, for sure. Cool.
Yeah. And so yeah, like I'm glad that this all like resonates with people. I think the most important part here is like really you're doing the assessment, like you're getting this baseline profit and time leak, like that's all good and great. I think it's really interpreting what those numbers actually mean to you. Like that's kind of like the aha pieces that stuck out for you, Jill, like at the end. It's like, okay, for you, this was about more of the fulfillment side of things. Like, and we didn't get into like maybe some of the belief stuff, and we can, like, we have time if you want to dive into that. But like, let's just say the example that you brought up, like that was more on the fulfillment side of things, right? Oftentimes what happens is this is around like the stress and the ripple effects of that stress that actually create problems within the business, right? So I always say, like, I work with business owners, yes, but I work on the human, like behind the entrepreneurs, they can be better business owners, right? And this is what that comes down to. So when you're looking at that number, you're really thinking, okay, this is what I stand to recapture if I remove all of these limiting patterns from how I show up. And it's kind of like worst case scenario, even if that number is like completely off, how much more peace do you experience within your business if you're not constantly people pleasing, if you're not self-sabotaging, if you're not, overworking because you think that means you're somehow bad because you're not constantly over delivering, right? So we started at the beginning, like, well, what does peaceful profit actually mean to you? So that's really like the invitation to consider when you like look at these numbers. And then of course, right, if you want to dive in and actually eliminate these within 90 days of just 12 to 16 coaching hours, like that's essentially what I do: reveal, heal, and eliminate these patterns in a quick and permanent way. So if that's of interest, I mean, we can drop the links below. Whoever wants to, book a call with me to dive deeper into the actual assessments and see what it would be like to do this. But yeah, that's kind of my closing thoughts on just how to think about the assessment. It's what's behind a number, much more than just what is the actual number. That's the baseline that we compare to, and that's why I say I can help somebody regain 30% of lost profit or at least 10 hours a week back, kind of based off of that baseline. Yeah, and that's really kind of like closing thoughts regards to people that are here.
I love it. First of all, thank you so much for your time. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope those listening and those who are listening, not live, really get something out of it, and that this will make your 2024 year so successful, well beyond money. What is the saying where it's like personal problems are business problems? Isn't there like a saying where, it is a whole being experience? And so, yeah, I hope you guys got so much out of it. I know that I did. If you have any questions, this replay and all of the links will be in a special spot on my website and also inside my private group, so you guys can access it all year. I know Drasco would love to have any calls booked with you guys if you need some clarification on anything. I'm sure he'd love to do that for you. He's a really outstanding guy. So I met him through another group that I'm a part of that actually is teaching me how to do ads. So that's where we met professionally, but I'm so thankful for your time today, Drasco. It's been amazing. If somebody wants to reach you directly, check out your website, your information, please let us know your website, how they can contact you. And then as far as a booking link for discovery calls or any coaching calls or anything like that, I'll make sure to have the links living with all of this too. So I guess just the main stuff is where they can find your website and how to contact you.
Yeah, 100%. So thank you. I mean, this was fun. Like I always love to dive into this stuff with you. And even though I do what I just did with you, like as a live podcast, like I'm always, even when people do the podcast and we don't go into this depth, it's much more like superficial and informal, but it's like, I'm always appreciative when people say yes to do something like this, because I agree with you that vulnerability is needed. This is like the real talk of what actually makes business people successful, not just financially, but like fulfillment wise, which is, again, the peaceful profits that we're all seeking. So I just want to commend you for stepping up and being a leader, within your community for that, especially given that one of your resolutions was visibility and video. I think you dove into the deep end on that one today. So congratulations.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And then, yeah, as far as like the call, so the link that I sent you, so this is basically for a profit leak breakthrough or like audit call. For those of you that watch the recording, like basically during that call, if you don't go through the assessment, I would walk through the assessment with you on that particular call, and we would dive in exactly what those numbers mean to you, what you stand to regain, how long these patterns have been around, just really give you a clear understanding of, okay, what is it that you need to eliminate in order to recapture that profit and time and have those peaceful profits within your business and life. And then you can choose like whether you can follow the blueprint and kind of have a general outline of like, okay, this is what I need to address to get better at this and recapture these profits. Or we can talk about working together to, like I said, 12 to 16 coaching hours across 12 weeks. You can eliminate basically the top 3 domino patterns that we describe. And what I mean by that is like you had a lot in like people pleasing. So like if we knock that off, like you right away knock off like a big chunk of that number. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of stuff I work with people on during the coaching program. And as far as where people can find me, so at the time of this recording, everything is available at Uplevel Mind. I am rebranding that to Peaceful Ambitious CEO because it reflects more of what I actually do. But right now, everything is at Uplevel Mind. So Uplevel Mind Coaching is my Instagram handle. Uplevel Mind's the podcast. If you guys want to listen to me coach people live on air, there's over 200 recorded episodes of that. And then, yeah, uplevelmind.com is the website. You can see the case studies. You can see what the program's about. So that's probably the easiest way. And then all of those links will be changed to Peacefully Ambitious CEO when the rebrand happens, but it's not going to be in any like, next week. So Uplevel Mind is basically the easiest way to find me.
Perfect. Okay. And then as far as links go, because I am the website gal, right now, all of your links on that spreadsheet are Uplevel Mind. Are you going to make sure that spreadsheet stays Uplevel Mind, or will that switch? Do we have to worry about it when people?
No, I'll have both URLs because I'm going to keep both URLs and it'll just redirect to where it needs to redirect. So you're good there.
Because I just want to make sure that if in 6 months from now, some random person decides to watch this, the links aren't broken for them and they're like, this is the waste. You know what I mean? So, okay. Well, that's exciting. Congrats on your rebrand. Well, I think that's it for tonight. I hope you guys got something out of it. If you, again, have any questions, let us know. And I look forward to seeing you in February because I am holding myself accountable to showing up at least once a month on the video, teaching something on a webinar. But you guys have been great and we'll talk soon.